You're listening to the British Baseball Podcast. Hello, baseball family. Matthew here with another episode of the British Baseball Podcast. And joining me today, I'll have someone else do the introduction for me. Someone's kindly written this on my behalf, and no, it's not my mum. Rob Jones from Hearts Baseball Club. He said that today's guest, Mike, in his early years, he was nothing but skinny streak of nothing with a wispy tash. Now he's a beast who hits home runs. His enthusiasm was always infectious. His drive and competitive spirit was impressive. And as my first baseman, he saved my dodgy throw from shortstop, and he's been a great force for the good of the club. And he's been running training sessions this year for the love of it. Enjoy talking to him. I'm sure I will. My guest today is Mike Cresswell. Mike, how are we doing?
I'm all good, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, very, very well. Got a lot of praise for you coming from these from your Hearts Twitter. So I don't know who you've been paying or who you need to buy a drink for, but there's a lot of lovely things coming out of there.
Oh, wow. Never know what to expect, to be honest with you, whether it's going to be praise or something I've made a fool of myself. That's quite normal.
How so?
Oh, I mean, there's famously 2 years ago, a video came out of me playing right field, and the first ball that was hitting my general direction while I was being recorded and videoed, I landed flat on my face. In my first year of baseball, I didn't make a catch for the first year, and I got picked off so many times. I've done a lot of crazy and stupid things, to be honest with you. It's probably helped me learn, but at the same time, I wouldn't know where to begin. I mean, even this year, me wearing what most people can describe as a very obnoxious turkey hat can also be attributed to how I sort of play the game. So I've done a lot of wacky things, to be fair.
I've seen that turkey hat. It's impressive.
It is. You'd be surprised how light it is as well. I pitched with it for about 6 innings over 3 weeks. That was fine. Made a diving play with it on. I don't know if it's given me more ability than anything else, but it's definitely helped me in some way of really just having a laugh with it. It was more or less to spur on my teammates of all the people I drafted as well. Someone was meant to turn up. I'm going to mention his name, Harry Ewan, because he should have done it. He bought a life-size, full-on onesie that was going to make him look like a giant turkey, and he never wore it. So if you see him, or if he hears this message, he needs to put his finger out and actually get it on the next game he plays, regardless if it's a season game or not.
Yeah, definitely. Hold him accountable. That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
I like that you had a bit of a mare in your first season as well, because it doesn't make me feel so bad about mine. I hit myself in the face with a baseball.
Ooh.
That's what I did.
It's normal. I came into the game never playing. In fact, my first training session was pouring with rain at Grove Hill on a Wednesday. The second ball thrown to me, I had a plastic 10-inch glove. It came off the tip of it and hit me just here. And I didn't know what to do after that, because you end up being shaken, because I was only 18 at the time. And I'd never played and everything. And also, it was the one training session where I turned up and a lot of NBL people were there. So I didn't know whether that was at the time the low level or the mid level or anything, but watching people throw fastballs and everything all around you just surprised the heck out of me, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. Yeah. I've had quite a few howlers, I think. Although one of my colleagues, who I won't mention, he was wearing shorts. We were both wearing shorts. He slid into third base on brick dust and shredded his leg. And watching a video back on that, didn't even need to slide, but I suppose that's the adrenaline and the nerves of first games. Oh yeah, I also got one of my own teammates run out as well. I just got stealing base happy and just kept running. And yeah.
There really should be some sort of check. There really should be some sort of checklist, there shouldn't there? Like in your first year of what you're going to do, get picked off, overrun the ball, run through second base when you're trying to steal it. The little things that you don't realize until you do it. How did this happen and everything.
Yeah. Well, what would you do then? Like you coached a few sessions now. What would you do then for new people to?
So for new people, we get them firstly. The most important thing is getting them comfortable with a glove, because most people you're going to get some who've come from cricket or some people who have never played catch in their life. When you give them something that's on their non-throwing hand, or they're normally the hand that they're not used to catching with, that throws them off at first. With them, it's just the core mechanics of taking everything slowly, in reference to fielding and things like that. Just getting used for the ball as well, because if you haven't thrown a baseball before, it's quite a heavy thing. It takes a little bit of use. I think it's 8 ounces, give or take. So that's getting used to it. And when it comes to things on the field, we just say to tell everyone, look, take your time with it, let the ball come to you. We'll show them the athletic position, which is a very basic way of just getting in the proper way of fielding it up, and then making sure how their throwing is accurate. So the main thing is we don't want to see them tax their shoulder or elbow or anything like that. The main thing is we want to see them throw, hit, and field safely and comfortably is the most important thing to me. I mean, the mechanics will be treated straight away just from that alone, because unfortunately you will get people who aren't used to it and they might unfortunately tax their elbow or tax their shoulder or something like that. So it's just a case of seeing how people adapt and seeing how people start off. And it's incredible how amazingly special some people who don't think they know how to hit or how to field or how to throw can adapt and change within 2 months to a year. They are a completely different person. And it's one of the greatest rewards, both as a coach and as a player, to see it happen.
Yeah.
That's it, really. Just the basics and fundamental and just doing it safely.
Brilliant. I feel like Skip's a bit far ahead of myself with eagerness. What I'd like to know, and I'm sure a lot of people who don't know you, but I've been told you're quite a popular member of the British baseball community, so apologies if this is everyone hearing this again for the umpteenth time. But before you joined Hearts Baseball Club in 2012, what was your baseball journey like? How did you get into baseball?
So I was a fan. My old man, my dad played baseball in the 80s. When he was a commercial artist in New York, he played very briefly. We're talking like just anywhere really in general. He also played in England for the Hounslow Hurricanes, who I think folded in 1990. I know a lot more people will get that more correct than I will. And when we were young, we had a PlayStation, and we had things like Triple Play Baseball 2000 and High Heat 2002, which I played as well as my dad, even though I was young. I liked it. It was really good fun. And the older I got, I ended up getting more into football and ice hockey, really, just by watching it and everything. It wasn't until about 17, sort of 2009, 2010, that I got back into baseball. Sort of through what happened is we were given a Nintendo Wii, and it had a game on there called The Bigs, which I will still say to this day is one of the best baseball games ever in terms of getting the arcade and simulation down to a T. And I fell in love with that a little bit, and I was looking for something to do. I was at a bit of a low point in my life at the time. Things weren't going my way. And I found that on one day, my dad was with my mum and they came back, and he'd driven past the baseball ground. He'd actually driven past Finsbury Park, and we didn't know that there was even baseball existed in the UK. We thought it sort of died out in the 90s. So from there, found out that Hearts Baseball had a ground. I asked, to which I think Aspie probably responded within the day, saying come down, and I ended up going to it, and I absolutely loved it. It was, as you expected, like I said earlier, it was Wednesday afternoon. It was pouring with rain, but I still found it enjoyable. I met the single A manager, who was Duncan Hoyle at the time, who ended up being my manager for a couple of years, and I just fell in love with it, and now it's just become a main staple of my life, really.
Yeah. Did your dad ever come to training with you, or was it just your own solo project?
It was myself. I mean, my dad sort of stopped after a while, after the 80s anyway, and occasionally I'd go out to throw with him. It would just be me and him, but he never sort of came to play or anything like that. I think he knew that he just didn't want to. He was more getting frustrated of watching the New York Mets pretty much end up being third or fourth in the NL East, and get more frustrated than that than thinking about how he's going to go over 3 with 3 strikeouts on a Sunday. So I think he just sort of chose the right path in the end and decided not to go down the British baseball route.
Yeah. You've got quite a good journey through which we'll get into shortly. You played from single A all the way up into, you've been playing in Bulgaria, European competition.
Yeah.
What do your non-baseballing friends think about your baseballing adventures?
They didn't know much about it until a couple of years in, probably 2 years in. I told them that I just wanted to play something, and a lot of them were really supportive of it, which was great. They again didn't know it even existed in the UK, let alone in other countries. They obviously knew it in America, but that's about it really. Other than like you hear the term rounders and such. So a lot of them were really supportive of it. It's always laughed about a lot. I've actually gone to weddings and things like that where I'm actually known as Baseball Mike rather than my actual name. So it's kind of just ends up being a thing. They were really happy, really good. Recently, I took a load of them down. I had a surprise birthday, which my partner lovingly did for me at Hemel. And I actually, about 6 of my friends who never played before turned up. So I ended up throwing BP to them just to see how they loved it, and they found it enjoyable. So, yeah, it's good. They've been very supportive of it. And unfortunately, unless it's baseball friends, you can't really talk about them saying, what's going on with the Mets? Why aren't they signing a second baseman? To which they don't know what a second base is, let alone anything else. So, yeah, they've been great, though, really.
That's cool. Did any of your mates sort of come to training or anything? Have done BP sessions?
I think 1 or 2 did early on, and they sort of gave it a go and everything. Unfortunately, one of them, they just had other things going on. It's a thing. It's just Sundays and Wednesdays. Some people have got stuff going on, other activities, and fair enough to them. So that's okay though. I'm glad they enjoyed it when they were there. To be fair.
Yeah, we had a crossover training session with the Manchester Crows flag football team about a couple of weeks ago now, and there's some players there that never played before. We went through the basics with them. When we got to BP, there's some like big dudes, and we're like, crikey, he's going to mash these. And you could see the potential in them. And it's just a shame that training schedules would conflict, because they had Sunday mornings. We have Sunday mornings when it's off season. So Thursday evenings, and games run at the same time. Because when I went and tried it out with the Crows doing the flag football to see what it's like from their side, and I loved it. And the feedback I got from them was really positive. And it's just a shame that the schedules would clash and conflict, because you got some players, there's some people there that I think would actually do some damage.
Yeah, they really would. You see like cricketers and things like that, just that even if it was a month or 2, they would be head and shoulders very good at single A, just purely hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Speaking of single A, it's a great segue. You qualified for the single A playoffs. Was that 2016? And
yes.
You were co-manager of the Hearts Raptors at the time. How hard was that to balance both being a player and the manager, considering that you probably had like quite a lot of friends within the team as well? Did that affect your relationships at all?
It was a bit of a strange one. I was like 22, 23. So what had happened, a bit of a backstory to it. In 2015, Rob and Cal were the managers. And what had happened is, unfortunately, as you may or may not know, Cal unfortunately passed away on the field. And
oh no,
he was our manager. This was a very sad time. You can look it up about Cal Dimitrov. Lovely, lovely bloke. He passed away on the field, unfortunately. I believe it was due to heart failure. So our match was abandoned on that day. And then what happened is, because of that event, which obviously the games were abandoned, and that we took it to see what was going to happen. So Rob stood down as manager because other things were going on. And I actually took it up with somebody called Paul Barton, who was already on the team. We kind of rallied around that anyway, because we were quite good friends and everyone was willing to learn. And we actually went on a bit of a streak. We ended up at the end of that season winning 4 on the bounce. So when it came to the new season, it was everyone sort of knew their roles and everyone wanted to develop certain things. I think it was just a case of just being open and honest to them as single A, and knowing that you've got 1 or 2 pitchers or 1 or 2 catchers, and you still want to allow people to give it a go, but you want to see the dedication and what people will bring as well. What I found was it was good fun. I didn't think of myself really as a manager. It was more that you were just with all your friends and everything got on really well. The one thing that I sort of inspired to them, which is what I learned from my previous manager before that, Duncan, was that if you turn up to training, it's a much better incentive because you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to develop. Now, of course, there's going to be some people who can't turn up to training because of work commitments, family, and things like that. But you always got a few who wanted to learn and get better. And you could see that if they turn up to a Wednesday and then they played Sunday, they do really well. It was just a good balance. And we managed to get a great result going where we got to the playoffs and we played Tonbridge away. Tonbridge hadn't lost a game, and we were away to them. A guy called Gareth Nutt pitching, who's a really good pitcher for them. We ended up getting to the game. We had initially 8 people for a playoff game, and one guy turned up who was Rob Henney. He basically said, I know someone who can play for us. He's only played once before, he'll do. And we ended up with 9, and we managed to somehow win the game. We just all hit well. Matt Jackson hit 3 triples. I think I went 1 for 1 with 6 walks, which is one of the weirdest games I've ever had. And Rob Jones made one of the best plays I've ever seen from a single A guy in like a single A game, where he managed to dive over his own head and catch a ball to make the second out of the 9th. And we just went on a tear, and we ended up playing the other Hearts team. So we played them in the semis, and unfortunately we lost, but we did really well to get there. It was good fun. We never thought of it like I was in, who am I going to pick, this person, that person. Everyone was really enjoying it. It's just a case of making sure everybody's happy. If everybody's happy, it sort of looks after itself, really. You'd be amazed if you've got a guy or a gal who's pitching, they're really happy, they'll get strikeouts and groundouts, much better than being annoyed or upset or anything like that. So we managed to keep the morale high, and we managed to really exceed expectations, which is one thing that I'll always be happy for. It's still my favourite level of all of baseball single A. I love it. I love so much about watching people develop and get hits and things like that, in which they never expect.
Yeah. I mean, I've been at sea level. We had a new team start this season just because I couldn't really commit to many games, and I don't think it would have been good to play for the B team anyway. But it was nice. It was a nice mix of new and experience, and like you said, then seeing people develop and get better each week, especially in training. It's really good to see. It's kind of uplifting. Is that what sort of prompted you to go and do your BSUK coaching?
A little bit. It was, again, Duncan, my manager, I've got to give a lot of credit to. He did his level 1 and level 2 and said he actually learned quite a lot from it. He came originally from a cricket background. So I took it upon myself. At the day, at the time, I couldn't even drive. I ended up getting a train in and then 2 buses or something to get there just one way. It was a long time ago. And it's something I wanted to learn and be at least accredited in some way. Because I'd heard before, when you're going to FA, you've got the FA accredited coaching scheme and things like that. So I took it upon myself to go there. The Hearts Baseball were very kindly paid for some of it as well. I think they actually paid for all of it in the end, because it was using the coaching aspect of it to actually continue managing. And it was good. I learned a lot. I saw a lot of people there who I still keep in touch with. John Gulliver being one of them from Brighton, really good guy. Sons are doing really well, I think, at the moment in the NBL. And you learned a lot. And it was also good of just networking as well. So it was something I always wanted to do, regardless of at any age. It's good, and I wish there was more of them, because there's a lot of people in British baseball that have a wealth of knowledge that could trickle down to any level, regardless if it was the highest level right now or the lowest level. They have great knowledge, which you can see when that's instilled into certain people. Mentally, they become a lot better. They get a lot more in terms of concentration, like determination and decision making and things like that. And then just their overall game gets better as well, because they have that, and they can lead it on and bring it over to other people as well.
Yeah, I agree. So it's moving a bit further on now. In 2017, you got called up to the AA side for the Hearts Hawks.
Yes.
How hard a step up was that for you? Was it a difficult decision to make, considering you just become like player manager?
It was a little bit. What I did was I set myself a target when I started playing. I said I wanted to reach the highest level I could get. Now, in my mind, I had no idea where I was going to end up. I thought I might end up AA or treble A and then just hit 200 or something. So I thought, okay, the team has done really well. There was someone who could manage the next phase, and I wanted to test myself up to AA. So when I moved up to AA, it was actually with the team I played against in single A. So it was a bit of a strange one. It makes you very nervous at first, and you're coming up, and it's still the same game, and there's still rec level, but you think, oh, what's going to go on here? Like, is it going to be different? You just want to perform and just still be good. The leap was manageable after a few games. I ended up playing a lot of first base, taught myself to play first base anyway from a young age in order to catch. And from there, I just gained confidence, and I got on well with everyone there. Like, in fact, most of the team, Hunter, Slater, Greg, Gilberto, they're all still there at Hearts. They actually play, at the moment, we've played with them a hundred. They're amazing guys, lovely people, and so glad that I've been able to play with them. It took on a little bit, yeah. I didn't pitch, which was probably for the best at the time. But it was good fun. I really loved it, and always made so many more friends as well, which is the one thing I do love about the game.
Yeah, definitely. And the next season, you were appointed player manager of the Hawks for the AA team, and you even qualified for the playoffs there. What are your memories around that season? Again, was it another difficult decision to make that step up to player manager, or were you happy to do it?
So being player manager, it was a little bit, but I'd made such good friends with everybody that it was almost like managing single A again, where it didn't feel like I needed to do much. I'd already met a few people from the year before who ended up being the team. We ended up picking up some really good guys. We ended up picking Darren Ward, who has been pitching, I think he's pitching forever. Lovely guy. I've learned so much from him.
Yeah.
So Mike Cattermole and a few guys from Dawes Hill as well, like Lee Coke, Adam Huxley, and Bryn Coughlin. I had a really good squad. So to me, with the knowledge of learning, I just thought, okay, I'll see and give it a go. And we did really well. We went 18-4. We had a great regular season. Again, it didn't even feel like managing. You'd turn up and everyone would have a laugh. And after the game, you'd all sit down, go to the pub, and you'd all just chat about baseball, just anything going on in your life. You didn't even think of it like anything else. So we did that. We lost to a Latin boys team who their first baseman hit a home run. I think we're still trying to find at the moment. It launched into another county. So yeah, did that. It was really good fun. Didn't even think of it as managing, and did it for another year after that. Did it for 2 years. So by the time I was 25, I think I'd managed for 4 years, which is pretty rare. I think. I don't know. Don't know if I put that punishment on myself for any reason, really, but there you go.
That's cool. So, how ambitious are you then? This may be jumping the gun a bit. Like, with all this experience that you've accumulated at such a young age, do you see yourself pushing yourself any further? I mean, what are your goals?
It's a strange one, because with what happened recently with my injury, a lot of things will step back a bit. I mean, this year I just came back to just play. The year before that, I played in the NBL and managed to get an on-base percentage over 500. My pitching, well, my ERA went great, but everything I managed to really test myself. So it's something in which, going back to the NBL, I would still like to try and do at some point, simply because I'd like to keep going at it. I've always wanted to see how many hits, or keep challenging myself. I do that still now. I want to get as many hits, get as many runs, steal bases. I play pretty much every game I can. I've always been determined. I came into this game with little to no ability. The only thing I probably had on my side at the time was that I could run. My hitting was all right. And I just taught myself. I went to the gym a lot, still do. I learned from playing MLB The Show and games to learn how to know where the zone is, know where to see when things will break. And I just built myself to play every game and play every inning. It's the best experience you can get. The more you play, the more games you get, the more at-bats you get more comfortable, you get more calm. You're mentally, from that side, you are on leaps and bounds. And if you just keep training as hard as you can, that's the best way to do it. It's why I coach now. I can see people who, the Hearts Hawks, made the semi-finals this year, and you can see in these guys and gals who are really good, and they are just getting better and better because they turn up every week. And I didn't want that to lose for myself, so I still train on Thursdays at Basing Hill, and I coach on Wednesdays. Yeah, I do want to continue, and I don't think I'd stop playing baseball. It'd be very strange of me to stop playing at the moment. I love it so much. It's such good fun.
You're far too young to be thinking that sort of stuff anyway. So in 2019, you were called up by the Hearts Falcons, I said, in the NBL team. Yeah. And you end up playing in European Cup Qualifiers in Bulgaria. What are your memories of the Bulgarian tournament, like your on-field and your off-field memories?
On fielding, it was incredible to play on a diamond that was honestly like playing at City Field. I have never seen a ground that good before. It was in Blaviograd, behind the centre field and through some forest was a lake that was completely clear and lovely. On the right-hand side, you had a giant mountain, and the ground was incredible. You were playing baseball in front of a crowd, which, to be honest with you, unless you hit the high level, you don't really get it. And you were playing against people who you could clearly see had been playing for years. It was probably the place in which I learned the most of anything, in terms of learning how to hit, learning how to field. We had some amazing people there, like Gary Davidson, Jared, Chris. I was learning Connor, who I still learn from at the moment. I saw him down the Hunlock, lovely guy, chatted to him. Learning from them on certain things, and it was just a step up. And I still treated it in every way like I was working hard, wanting to played a lot of outfield. It's a massive difference when you play in the field. When you turn around, you realise the outfield is no longer 300 foot; it's like 350. The fences are massive. The ball coming off the bat is ridiculously. It's much quicker than you normally expect it to be. It comes off like at least probably 80, if not more. And I was lucky that I got a few hits out of it. Unfortunately, I found the hard way. Sort of from my first base coach as well, Chris, you'll never remember. I managed to get my first ever hit, and then I got the hidden ball trick done on me. So I got my first hit, managed to get on, was well happy with myself, took my first step off. My first base coach, Chris, said, "Okay, take your lead." And immediately I felt a glove tag me, and he threw the ball to the umpire. And Chris said a certain word which was not good, and I just sort of smiled and walked back. I'd managed to get a hit, so I mean that alone was good enough for me at the time. But yeah, it's something I always remember because it shows that happened. So you need to concentrate all the time. When I umpire, I've umpired a fair amount here and there. I learned, primarily speaking a lot with Blake and from Darren, watch the ball. They can't do anything without the ball. The ball is the most important thing. Wherever that is, you just follow it and know exactly where it is. If I base coach, same thing. Watch the ball. Know exactly where it is. Don't get, if the pitcher's on the rubber or not on the rubber, know exactly where you need to be. It's a really good eye-opening moment, really.
So 2021, you were added to the Hearts Falcons NBL roster pretty much full-time. You played a bit of first base, center field, and did some pitching.
Yeah.
It was a difficult season all around. What were the main difficulties that you had during the 2021 season, and how did you swing it around?
Well, it was pretty difficult in its entirety, really. The fact of the matter was we lost a lot of players because of what happened with COVID and everything like that. The squad was a lot thinner, and we still wanted to try and compete at that level. So what we did is we had the remnants of some of the Falcons, which was Chris, Phil, Rene, Will Zucker, Amane, people like that. We sort of filled the squad up a little bit with some more people like myself. Was it Andy Cornish, people like that. So it was a very difficult year. We ended up sort of sort of basically thinking of it as a experiment year rather than anything else, where we could try some things out, still try and compete, but at the same time learn and develop, particularly the youngsters. So it was one of those years in which a lot happened. I think we ended up going through 4 managers. Chris had to leave, unfortunately, due to a family tragedy in Chile. So that was not through any fault of his own. So he ended up being managed by Carlos Casals Sr., who I think ended up having to leave as well afterwards due to something else going on, did his work. We then had Phil take over temporarily, and then at the end of it, it ended up being myself and Will managing for the last 4 games. So we managed to make the whole season of it. When you look back at it, I think we were 1-23, which isn't exactly a great score by any means. It was a very tough year. We learned a lot, but it was some games. I mean, unfortunately, we'd get there to about the 3rd or 4th, and then it'd slightly get away from us. And that's no fault for anyone else's own, really. It was just a difficult year for all of us at the moment.
Yeah. But you did manage to break a 22-game losing streak with one of what's been mentioned as one of the most amazing comebacks in baseball on either side of the pond or anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that game?
It was an interesting game, I'll give you that. It was a game in which we, at one point, I think we were down by something ridiculously like 14 runs, and I ended up coming in, and I still said, let's continue. And we managed to get it back a little bit. The game was sort of back and forth, and then we started to lose a little bit of it. I remember pitching, and it was more or less they were getting just really good hits off me. They're a really good team, really good bunch of kids, and to be honest with you, now they're doing really well in the NBL.
Who was it you played against?
We played against, I believe it was the London Legends.
Yeah.
Who at the time it was the team with Matt Moran, Dan Moran, those guys who played for Hearts before that.
Yeah.
Doing really well at the moment. So we managed to get it close to the point, and then we were down by, I believe it was 10 runs in the last inning. And we went on a tear. We got everyone in. We did a big shout and say, let's win this inning. And we got hits. We managed to walk, hit. And it was then we were starting hitting singles. We were actually starting to hit line doubles and things like that. And we were getting closer to it. We just became a game in which the momentum shifted our way, and everyone was up on the dugout. Everyone was giving support. Everyone was cheering. And just the momentum swift of that carried us. Everyone was just doing the right thing at the right time. I think Will Davis hit a double. Will Zucker hit a double. I managed to hit a home run. We managed to just go crazy on it. And it got to the point when we then had a runner at third, and Jack O'Brien, I think it was Jack O'Brien that came in, and we went crazy. We thought we'd won the World Series. To us, we thought we did. We didn't matter. But the fact that we had gone the entire season and not won one game and managed to win it, that one win was more important to us than winning 10 in the regular season.
Yeah.
We'd managed to do something a lot of players who had only played single or double A had never done it before, and we had torn them apart. We had Amy Trask there, we had Jess Vernon there, we had Jack, Will Davis, Will Zucker. I mean, probably name you the team, but simply because I remember the entire game of how weird it went. And it was amazing. Loved it. It actually ended up being famous on Reddit. I don't know if you know about this. It ended up being one of the top baseball things on Reddit, which threw us off because I think I got a message from Hunter, who played for me at 4 a.m. saying, I don't know what's going on, but we're all famous on Reddit. So lo and behold, I mean, any publicity is good publicity, surely.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, we just took it on the chin, and there we go.
Brilliant.
So yeah, a miraculous comeback.
At what point in that comeback did you start to think we can win this? Because to
When
score
we
11
got the
runs
first
in the
two runs,
final inning is pretty
yeah,
impressive.
we managed to just. I think we got bases loaded, and then we got 2 runs in. If there was still no out. Me, Will, and I looked at each other and thought, okay, this is it. This is exactly what we want to see. And we weren't getting any outs. Once you get 2 or 3 runs in an inning and you don't get any out, and it's more instead of it being if you get 3 bombs, it doesn't really mean much because it's great to get 3 runs in by home run. But watching a run come in via 2 singles or 3 singles and people working hard, like stealing bases and knowing exactly what to be, you can tell everyone's switched on. You get 1 run from 3 people than you do 1 run from 1 home run, for instance. You're seeing mentally that they're getting much better at it. Yeah, when we got the second or third run in, we believed, okay, we can do this. And it just never stopped. We managed to, I think, got hit by pitch, walk, any means to get on, we would get on. And it worked so well. We were being sensible, we were being clever, and we managed to just do it. And we continued that momentum. We had a game at the end where we could have won it. Unfortunately, we lost an extra innings. But we knew we could start challenging, and the belief in everyone, it just showed, and it was incredible. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. I'll also have to say to Will, we'll have to believe we also started instilling in every game. We bought a load of water, a load of bananas, saying that this is the most important thing. To which, if everyone knows me, I seem to bring about 2 or 3 bananas a game, simply because it's instant energy, it's a morale, and it's a rally changer. Although Jess, who surely also knows, keeps telling me if I eat more than 2 bananas a day, it's not good for me. But I think I've had 3 today. So, whoops.
Don't tell me that. I love bananas.
Yeah, I know. They're great, aren't they?
Oh,
I'm pioneer of bananas, mate.
I'm just going to go back to eating biscuits.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Biscuits. Leave
Yeah,
bananas
that's
alone.
the base.
I can't eat anything nowadays. Right. Let's go on to the 2022 season. Bit of a difficult one. I know. Thanks for saying you're okay to share some stories from this one.
Sure.
So you went back to AAA, but you missed many games due to an off-field incident. And you can say as much or as little as you want to. Again, I don't want you to feel awkward or under any sort of stress. But after the accident, it was just quite a serious head injury.
Mm-hmm.
How were you feeling then towards your approach to getting back into playing baseball? Were you ever worried about anything at all? Because after I had a head injury a few years ago, I was really worried about going back to doing boxing and ice hockey because I was just terrified that any sort of knock on the head. To even when I was doing the off-season MMA training today, my partner was always like, just remember to protect your head all the time. I was like, yeah. So how are you now, and how have you dealt with the injury?
I spoke to the doctors and the people at Northwick Park when it happened and everything, so that they would know what I was looking at recovery time. So yeah, I mean, I broke 2 bones in my nose, 3 bones in my cheek. My jaw was near broken as well, so I ended up having to not looking very handsome after that. Well, I am anyway. Ended up having to go under maxillofacial surgery, which I've now got 4 metal plates in my face, including one there, below my orbital, and there inside my cheek. I took it on the healing in a weird way. I kind of wanted to get back to playing it. I know that sounds somewhat nuts for saying it, but I did it in the method of what do the doctors recommend and what's the way they said. So when I had the surgery in May, I had the injury in May, had the surgery in June, they said 2 months. So I had the surgery, it was healing time, and you can still feel the repercussions of it. Luckily now, touch wood, since last week, pretty much I'm now done. Everything has been discharged from the hospital, so I'm sort of back to normal. After that, I came back to baseball. I wore a mask that was full on, almost to be honest with you, a little bit like Hannibal Lecter. And I had to wear that so that my jaw, nose, my cheeks, and everything was covered, which was the most important thing. I continued to wear that till the end of the regular season, simply so that it was all okay. I think the last day I was okay, I was clear at that point. The incident was, I mean, I defended someone because of something that happened. I can talk more about that in a minute, but I did it so I wanted to come back. I wanted to continue coaching and see people develop, but I wanted to do it in the manner so that I would come back healthy and fit. I didn't want to risk anything too much. So I managed to check everything. The metal plates all fixed to my skull, no problems like that. Everything was fine. I had a little bit of setbacks. I still got, for instance, this bit here is still somewhat numb. I may not get that back ever again, which but it's still sort of little bits and pieces like that. I think mentally was the most important thing. I think with anybody who goes with any kind of injury, it's a bit of a wake-up call when you're sitting by yourself or in bed or anything, hours upon hours, and you can't do anything. You end up getting into your own thoughts. And luckily, I had Lauren, who was incredible, a partner to look after me and things like that. I can't say everything she does for me is so impressive. And my group of friends as well, who would either come over or send me messages, things like that, and just chat to them. That network of people and just people reaching out in general, even people who I might have played against or played for an inning or something like that, reached out to me, which every message was incredibly heartfelt and very complimentary. And I can't thank everyone enough for reaching out to me in regards to it. So it was just mentally you needed to sort of focus and things like that. And now coming back to it, since I've played and everything's all good, I still love it. I still enjoy it. I've got the understanding and everything confirmed that it's all back to normal. So it's good because I can go back and lose the time was the worst like thing of all. You lose 3 months and you don't really get back, maybe 4 at push. You can't come back with those months and take them any other time. You just have to sit out, especially during summer. It's a very odd period. People are going out and having fun and everything, and you're sitting in bed with 2 black eyes and blood pouring out your nose. You can't really do anything, which is fine. So it was good coming back. Came back, was allowed to coach, which was great. Managed to coach both single A the Raptors and the Hawks. Was base coaching for the Hawks and saw them win the quarterfinals. So I managed to at least have some sort of reward from it. Managed to come back and play AAA for a bit. Hit 370, hit a home run, did all right. So I'm glad I could still sort of come back and get back playing and everything. It's just a lot to take in, but it's all good. I'm happy for any questions or anything about it, honestly, mate. Just wanted to ask about it.
That's cool, yeah. Because I was just like, just knowing that you may never be able to do the sports or do some of the things that you love again. Like for me, my smell, my taste was massively impacted. I got anosmia, which is loss of taste, and I can't remember what the loss of smell one is. And I used to love cooking. Yeah. And just having that taken away put me in a massive slump for so long, like years I'm talking about. And so I didn't really, I had a really good support structure around me, but I know I didn't handle it or probably do what I should have done.
Yeah.
To get myself in a better frame of mind. It was really difficult to get out of. Like, were you ever at any point worried about like never being able to play ball again or anything?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at one point, a couple of days after the injury, I started bleeding out my eye. And a couple of weeks ago, I had an issue where I had something called a hematoma, which is essentially a bruise where they made an incision under the eye. So I started bleeding out of that. That was probably the most worrying thing of all, because you might lose your sight. And can't explain to anyone unless it's ever happened before. When something like that happens, it makes you go into a very odd mood. With everything that happened, I didn't know what I was going to be coming back to. When the injury happened, I was quite lucky in a sense that where I was assaulted, he managed, if it was an inch higher, my eye socket would have been shattered. If it was an inch lower, I would have probably had 4 teeth in my jaw. So it's where I was hit in a really sadistic sort of way. It was probably the best place to hit me. It's something that you go week by week. When I spoke to the surgeons about it and everything, they said you can't do contact sports for a couple of months, and then after that you'll be in the clear and everything. It's definitely something that you think about mentally. It sort of realizes when you think about football players and baseball players or any kind of sport people. I mean, today, John Flanagan retired. He played for Liverpool and Rangers. He's 29 now. He basically played 1 game for England. He's played, I think, 90 games in his career at 29 because he's been injured so much. You realise that although this is purely recreational, things can happen in immediate impact, and you could end up losing your leg, losing your eye, or anything. And mentally, it's very hard to recover from it. I was quite lucky that I had Laura and other people to look out for me. And I had people messaging me out all the time, like I said earlier, which was really good. You just keep yourself in a set. And I tended to be quite optimistic about it. I'd look very poorly. I'd look like a Picasso in the rain, but I would more still look at it and think, I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm going to get on the mend and everything like that. I sort of tried to still instill a sort of positive mood on myself and everything like that. In fact, when I got hit, I was actually more scared. There was youth players. We had the London Single A, the Minotaurs, I think it was, who were there, as well as some youth players. So when I got hit, I went down and immediately covered my face because I didn't want them to see it. Because you don't want to scar anyone, regardless of age, but particularly from youth players, scarring them seeing this injury when they might think back in a couple of months or something and they can't sleep about it, or they feel nervous when they go to a baseball ground because they've seen this happen. So little things like that, really. An interesting year to say the least, but luckily it's all sort of in the clear now.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're on the mend. But like just showing the positives that you're taking out of you shows your strength of character that people have told me about you and the sort of person that you are, the optimism, the getting back to it and getting straight in there. Like I said, like hindsight's an amazing thing. There's so many things that I wish I could have done, should have done differently. But, all roads and paths lead us to this moment in time. So from all the things that I probably didn't do well, I've learned from, and hopefully I can pass on that knowledge to little one if he's ever in a situation like that, So
it's the positive and the negative things of life is what amalgamates to who you end up being as an individual in the end. You can look back at it and regret. You can look back at it in pride or anything like that, whatever the situation is. But when it comes to the person that you are, the great thing about it is you still learn, you still develop, the great thing about being someone like that at any sort of great thing is that regardless of age, whether you're 6 or 60, you still want to learn from people, even if they're younger or older or whoever, and own up to mistakes, own up to things you do and everything. People, it's with sincerity and things like that, it just makes you who you are as a person. And people will always treat you how you treat them back. So just be nice to people.
No, yeah. I always try to be nice to people. I've always been like that, saying nice guys finish last type of thing. I'm biggest loser you'll ever meet. Well, I think so. But that was really good. That kind of felt a bit of weight lifted off my own shoulders there. But thanks for sharing.
No worries, mate.
Yeah, it's been good. But let's try and pick things up a bit then. Let's have a little bit of audio banana then. Let's go mental with some potassium. What am I talking about? I'm not even going to cut that out. Awful.
Keep it in.
Yeah.
Have a banana after this.
No, it's too late.
You'd be surprised.
Crazy man. Eating a banana after 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
be honest with you. I'll have a snack later on. Banana will be included.
nice. No sleep for you then. I've been told that you love your baseball trivia. Hit me with your favorite piece of baseball trivia.
Favorite. Ooh, I don't know. There's a loads of tiny things I know about. I still love the fact that Harry Cheetah was traded for himself, which is one of the first things the Mets did in '63. Harry Cheetah was traded, I think, to the Indians for a player to be named later, in which the player to be named later was himself. So
Amazing.
it's rare. I think it's happened one other time in the '80s. I think actually twice more now I think about it. The great thing about baseball is there's lots of strange facts in it and lots of things. I mean, I think one of the Pirates pitched a perfect game and lost it in the 10th inning. The great thing about it is that there's so many stupid things that can happen. I love the fact that you could, as a pitcher, go completely perfect and then lose the game 1-0, or
Mm.
hit 4 home runs in a game, miss a base, and then get caught out on it. There's so many little technicalities that can happen. So what we used to do, me and my dad, was when I was living with my old man, we'd end up going on Baseball Reference because my dad collects all the Topps baseball cards. He's got every
Yeah.
set from 72 onwards.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. It's one of those things that he's a big sort of an avid sort of annual collector of things, particularly cards. When he picked them up, he was doing Topps in the '80s, and so he's bought all the sets recently. And yeah, up to 72, I believe, is the oldest he's currently got. Because after that, they become really expensive. You
Yeah.
start getting rookies of players. I mean, like even ones when you're getting what had it been catfish hunter, people like that early on in like mid '70s, and that they become very expensive. Like Reggie Jackson's rookie card 65 for the Colts, they're very expensive. So we go on Baseball Reference and just look at certain people and just look at teams. We'd look at the really boring, the really crap teams like the Pirates of the '80s would have Jose De Leon, Lee Tunnell. I think Jose De Leon went 0-19. Lee Tunnell, who was like one of the worst pitchers ever. Um, Things like that. It's just funny. There's weird baseball trivia out there that's just
Mm.
interesting to me. So yeah, Harry Cheaty one's pretty weird. To get traded for yourself takes some doing. To be honest with you.
Yeah, you must be really bad, but then be really good at the same time.
Yeah. Eh, I mean, I'd like to say he was good. We in the '62 with the Mets, we drafted Gus Bell, who was a grandfather, and he then retired because he didn't want to play for us. When it's a really interesting thing, if anyone was a bit weird and wanted to look it up, if you look at what the Mets drafted in the entry draft in '62, we lost 120 games. We drafted a grandfather. We drafted 4 players who I think retired immediately.
Mm.
We had an all-star in Richie Ashburn, who was 40 at the time and still at over 300. We had 4 catchers, I think, in the first 6 rounds. We had Casey Stengel manage, who was famous for saying, if you don't draft a catcher, you'll have a lot of pass balls. Correct, but we drafted 4 really poor catchers. I think the best one was Choo Choo Coleman. I think he had like 220. So yeah, I probably bore people with my knowledge, to be honest with you, rather than
Nah,
actually spur conversations.
I know there's a fair few listeners now that are probably getting very excited over that. I love those sort of things. Weird trivia, love good facts. Give us 2 truths and a lie. I tried this the other day with Raul
Yeah,
Shah, and it was brilliant. So hit me.
2 truths and a lie about
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
Okay, so number one, I have played all 9 positions in a single game.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, when I first started, I was right-handed, and after a while in which I was striking at a few batters, I then realised I was pitching the wrong hand, and I changed to my left.
Okay.
And the third one was when I first ever time I was to pinch run, I got on base, was told, and immediately got doubled off.
Yeah, from the stories that we've had so far,
Go on.
I think all of them are likely. I can see you playing all 9 positions in one game.
Okay.
I can see you doing the left-handed pitching thing because you've been wearing a turkey as a hat.
Yeah. So I started right-handed, but I ended up turning, and now my main hand is now left-handed.
I'm gonna go with the I'll go with the nine. Nine positions is a lie.
Do you think 9 positions lie?
Yeah, because I think Rob would have told me in the notes. Ask him
He wasn't
about it.
there. No, I did do 9 innings. I did do 9
Damn it.
positions. I think I did 9 positions in 6 innings.
Go
Wow.
then. How'd you do that then?
I think what would it have been, 2014, I think it was, when I was manager. We had no catcher, and one of our pitchers pulled out. So pitcher and I pitched for the first few innings, and then I caught later on. And then the game went, this was before the 5 inning rule, where at one point single A games went longer than a book of Ulysses. You would go on forever. And I think I then played first, and then I played the outfield. I played centre and right, and then I realised, hang on a minute, I've played 5 positions here. I'm just going to have a laugh at it, and now so I just put myself in left, third, and short, and second. So I've only played third base twice in my life. That was the first time in which a ball was hit at me, and it was hit at me on the screws, and I just thought, how does anyone play this position? And the second time was in Hunlock. So yeah. So which one of the other two do you think it is the fib?
Doubled off.
No, that's true.
Oh, damn it.
I got doubled off this was at London Marauders in 2013.
Yeah.
I had actually skipped my holiday to go and play this game. I think it was to the Isle of Wight. Duncan put me on, saying, "Well, okay, we need you to go." The first thing I was told was to steal. So knowing that, I put my head down and bolted. Didn't realise that the pull was a pop fly. The second the shortstop caught it, I just stood there because I didn't know what to do, and I was doubled off.
Gutted.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that the switch pitching would have been true.
No, I'm not ambidextrous or amphibious. It's like Pat Vendetti. I'm naturally left. I can't use any part of my right. I write with my left, I throw with my left, and I hit left-handed.
Brilliant. Who would make you a Mount Rushmore of British baseball people? 4 individuals that mean the most to you in this sport.
Wow. Oh. I'm going to get to see 4 mugs on a statue somewhere.
Yeah.
Do I get to choose where this Mount Rushmore is, like off the A41 or something?
If you want to. You even make it out of paper mache.
You know something? It's a strange question because there are people who have probably inspired me to work and learn from, and it would probably be that rather than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The people I've learned the most from, Duncan, my first ever manager, Duncan Hoyle, who, again, I've mentioned a few times already. I don't think people realised when he first started managing how good he was in terms of just getting things sorted and helping us out and everything. So definitely him. The second one, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball here because you're probably not expecting it. I would probably say Gary. Gary Davidson, I had the luxury of playing both in Bulgaria and briefly in the NBL. And on top of him being a stand-up guy, he probably taught me the most of batting of any other person. I completely changed my mechanics because of him, simply put. I've got to put Aspie on there. Now, Aspie is, if you don't know who Aspie is, to some people here who are listening in on this, he can only be considered a living legend of Hearts baseball. He has been there since 2002, I believe, and is the president of Hearts baseball. Mm-hmm. One of, if not the most selfless individuals I've ever met in my life, still at the club, to this day at Hunlock, will sometimes refuse help, to which we say, no, we want to help. We'll put the stuff away, we'll put things away, we'll go to Basing Hill Ballpark, which has recently been done, and measure the grass, measure things like that. Just as an individual and how much he has done to the club, it's something else. So he's got to be mentioned for that. And the fourth person, who am I going to put on there? What mug's going to get that honour? You know what? I'm going to put it to someone who I absolutely love playing with. He's recently joined the London Capitals, Will Zucker. Yeah. Now, Will and I both started at 2012. There's a cracking picture of us somewhere where Will's pitching. I think he's 15 and I'm in the centre field at 18. We're both scrawny people who think together. We were about 12 stone at the time together. I have so much love and respect for that guy. We've ended up going training together. We ended up during COVID, when it was all legal and allowed to do so. We went to Mill Hill and we would just play pitch and catch. And we just work on things. And I put it there simply because he has taught me so much. We've managed together, and he's an amazing friend to have. So, unfortunately, he suffered an injury in the NBL final, but luckily, I think he's on his way back. So, big shout out to him. He's a stellar guy and everything. And yeah, I'd love to see his face on a statue. That'd be a laugh. Why not?
Brilliant. Do you have a chocolate? Get mold chocolate.
Yeah.
Started. There you go. Final question from me before I leave it open to you. What has baseball given you, and what are you grateful to the game for?
I am grateful that baseball has given me an opportunity to learn, develop, but most importantly, find new friends and people who are genuinely lovely people. Through baseball, I actually met my partner, who I'm now living with, who unfortunately has to part with me, poor Lauren. So it's provided so much, not only just mentally in terms of focus and dedication and having some sort of passion off work that you can just focus on that, but you meet so many people from not just Hearts, and that's the good thing. We'd do in single and AA, I'd always try and make it the mission that if we're away journey, we'd always try and go to the pub afterwards and just chat to people from Guildford or Richmond or Bristol or wherever. I'm luckily so glad that I've got so many friends from so many different other teams around that when we go to the MLB meetups or things like that, I can speak to people and just see how they are and everything. It's just a great sort of network, and from there it's been amazing to meet people who have been so lovely, and from there the chat is just so good for me. It's amazing what getting 18 people in a field, most of the time pouring the rain and people screaming, where you can end up actually making really good friends out of it. I've gone to people's weddings, I've gone to parties, I've gone to gatherings and everything, primarily just from people who've come from baseball. It's been amazing. It's just, like I said, I've met Lauren from it, and now we've got a flat together.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, it seems to be one of them sliding doors moments, and I almost dread asking, like, what do you think your life would have been like without baseball? Because sometimes it can paint like quite a bleak picture.
I'd have made a very subpar goalkeeper. I used to play goalkeeper about 15. And I love ice hockey, but I can't skate very well. And I can't swim. So it leaves me my options very limited to what I can do here. Yeah. I can't take up golf because that's not me. And a lot of people will be disappointed in that. No, it's just a main staple of my life. And I will never forget it. And I will continue to love it. And I hope for weeks, years on end, that it still continues to be something. Even if, hopefully not, I ever get injured again or something, I'd still love to coach. I'd still love to manage. I love the idea of still coaching and watching people develop and everything. So it's great fun. Honestly, I could not highly recommend baseball to anyone. Honestly, everyone should try it. It's great fun.
Yeah, I agree. Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for this evening. This has been brilliant. I'd love to. I've got a feeling there's many more stories I can pull from you. So I'm going to do another one later down the line. But as always, the final word is for the guest. So, Mike Cresswell, thanks for being a brilliant guest. You have lived up to the hype. The floor is all yours. Any shout outs you want to give anyone you want to give thanks to?
I'd just say thank you to you for reaching out to me. I still can't believe that someone out there is desperate enough to listen to me jabbering on for 2 hours. It's literally like hearing Old Man River. I think I'd just be appreciative and thanking to everybody I've ever played with or I've played against. It's been amazing. With everything that's gone on with the injury as well, with having the surgery, and that has put things into perspective. But it's nice to everyone that's reached out and everything. It's hugely appreciative. And the main thing is, Everyone at Hearts is doing well. Big shout out to them. I'm hoping everyone in the British baseball community is doing well. I'm still loving and watching all the UK fan Twitter affiliates. Is always good to see and things like that. It's just great to see the game go. Like, it's growing so well. I'm so glad and hearing like the GB baseball doing well. Like, big shout out to Drew Spencer and Jonathan Cradman, who have been terrific with that. And they're going to play America. They're going to play Mike Trout. They're going to play players who you would only ever dream or see on MLB The Show. That it's a 1 in 1,000 chance that you get Mike Trout, and they're going to be playing against him, and hoping that's going to build British baseball even further. Now I can't say more on that. Big shout out to the Hearts Cardinals, who I played for this season. Brian Deering and all these lot. It's been a laugh and everything. Glad they've enjoyed it. So, no, thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's been listening, and hope they enjoyed this.
Yeah, man. I'm sure they will do. All right, brilliant stuff. I'll let you get back to your nanas and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, mate.
All right, bud. Take it easy.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
All right.